actually help her in terms of getting back on track as well. But this will be interesting night, and I think it actually it might be a sleeper fight of the night as well. What do you think?
I think this is going to be a good one because I know both these girls. Goodness, well, Jamie's really, really tenacious, and then I can't pronounce her last name. I've seen her before when I went to train with Andrew, helping her get ready for Sarah D'Aleo and Invicta like a few years ago. And she's thunderous, and I've seen her fight at Tough Enough. Like, she never, ever gives you a chance to breathe. She's more in your face than an annoying salesman, but obviously with punches. Valerie, why am I messing her name up? She has good grappling. She has really good grappling. I mean, it's underrated, and it helps stop a lot of stuff. Her takedown defense is great. I'm going to get Jamie. Jamie still works hard. Jamie's all on her face. I've only seen one fight of hers, though. She's probably going to chew me out on Facebook. Sorry. So, this is all about whose game plan is going to prevail. I can't give an honest opinion because I like them both.
Yeah, you know what? I want to mention this too. A lot of podcasts, simply if they cover Invicta, they won't cover these undercard fights. I hate that. So, the thing with this podcast is that we're going to cover every single fight because it's very important for these girls to get a little bit of exposure, and it's very important because once they get those undercard wins, then you're kind of like, oh, who is that? Well, she fought at Invicta, several different times. You should know who this person is. So
exactly,
it's very important
as much as I'm not really pleased with Sajara, and I really didn't like when Joe Rogan was like, I've never heard of this woman. I'm like, Joe, you know all of MMA, and you didn't study her in Invicta. Are you fucking kidding me right now? So I agree with you entirely. Like, not many people see Invicta. Like, Invicta's starting now to take a shine to the UFC because of the deal the UFC has with Invicta, which I honestly think also turns into why we have empty championships. It's because, lost my train of thought. Okay, they jump over, and now people are seeing them jump over. Now Invicta's starting to get the credit it's due. But in turn, this is why we have empty championships.
Well,
but for Joe to not be like, oh, I don't know her, it's like, what the fuck, dude? Everybody else does.
Well, two things. First of all, Joe should have known her from Tough Show anyway, because she was supposed to be in the finale, and she ended up not making weight. So Roxy came in. So you should have known that simply because of that.
I'm gonna put this out here for everybody else who didn't know this. She came in, and this is for other girls who are missing weight and saying they're period, because that's a load of shit. Roxy came in 3 weeks, and she was on her period. I don't care if this grosses people out. Fuck your feelings. And she still made weight like a champion. Meanwhile, somebody else with a full fucking camp did not make weight and was unapologetic. And then she acts like she's some big force in nature because she beat somebody who came on weight while her big ass didn't. Fuck out of here. Okay, I'm calm now. Let's keep going, Mark.
Don't even talk to me about Nico. Anyway, but anyway, and the second thing I was going to say is that there's always that perception as whenever the UFC opens a weight class that quote unquote Invicta ends up not having the same quality talent as it used to be. Well, the thing is that the fact is that they build talent, and I hate the people that people have that opinion that, oh, since Invicta and since all the good girls are taken by the UFC, there isn't any good talent in Invicta. Well, that's bull. That's bull. It's not like it's been before. It's not like it was Invicta when Invicta started. We had a lot of talent. Well, that's because the UFC didn't have the things, and a lot of the talent that they had back then had a lot of fights. They came into Invicta to gain experience, and then and that helped catalyst. Besides, as much as people want to give Ronda absolute credit for bringing the women into the UFC, the thing is that what developed divisions was Invicta and Strikeforce. So, don't holler all the credit to Ronda.
A little bit to IFL. Little bit IFL as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I was a little...
Yeah, exactly,
yeah. Yeah, we could also go Bodog fight as well if we really wanted to, but but anyway, exactly, we could go old school on that because it was interesting. I'll do this as a side note. Shayna Baszler had written something in Reddit, and people keep on kind of getting on her case about the fact that that she she went to wrestling. She wasn't that good of an MMA fighter. But she said these. I put this in a tweet. If you guys go to WMA News, you'll be able to see the tweet that I retweeted the comment, and then I commented on this. I said, "Listen, if it wasn't for people like Shayna to set the table, it wouldn't be girls like that." And a lot of people did not cover the sport back then, like myself did, Rob did, Tim did.
I hate that fucking argument, though.
Yeah.
Oh, you went to pro wrestling because you're a good motherfucker. Was Kurt Angle not a good Olympic wrestler because he went to professional wrestling?
Yeah.
I've had my disagreements with Shayna about pro wrestling and MMA, meaning mostly because Brock Lesnar was able to secure a shot of get main event and bump Misha Tate and Holly's fight off. But this is me being angry and not exactly the most rational human being, but just because you go to pro wrestling does not discount your qualities as a combat sport athlete.
Yeah.
Right? I really fucking hate that.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I hate seeing other people do that. She's an OG. But then again, this sport is now being flooded by fucking casuals who don't study.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think my job is to get the newer fans the information that they need, and try to get them educated into what's been going on, for the past decade. I have stats from the past, I think, for the past 10, 12 years of female fights. And, all of them are posted on Wombat Sports. If you guys want to take them out, I have to one day just gather everything and just do a huge freaking book about it. But anyway, so I have a lot of the stats and all the stuff like that. So, I came a little bit later than what Rob did or Tim did, but, I was able to learn from them a little bit more about some of the earlier history. But yeah, there is that misconception on that as well. So it's kind of is. So back to our point is the fact that, some of these girls that are on the card, does not necessarily mean, if they're lower on the card, doesn't mean that they're not talented. It means that they're working their way up. And I hate that people kind of discredit the fact that, there isn't really great talent in Invicta. There is great talent in Invicta. Pearl, I think, got kind of screwed over by the UFC because, she lost twice, and now she's on a huge run right now in Invicta. It doesn't mean her opponent's quality has changed at all. It means that she's worked her butt off to get back on track. So, I just want people that stop the misconception that, Invicta has second-rate talent. They don't. They have some really great talent, and they have some talent that's going to be up and coming. That could be coming to the UFC very, very soon. So don't have that argument.
Talent, they wouldn't have a thing in their contract saying that the UFC can scoop them into their divisions whenever.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get back to it because we have two more fights to go. It seemed like the featherweight curse happened because a second fight where somebody missed weight, but this time it was by 5 pounds. Holly Salazar came in roughly about.
It got turned into a catchweight.
A catchweight 150 versus Courtney King. Courtney King will be receiving 25% of Holly's purse. So again, very interesting situation. I believe, if I remember correctly, that the Holly's last fight ended up being a draw because a point was taken away. If I remember correctly, it was who was it that got lost a point? I think it was Mara that lost the point. If I remember, no, it was Wolf. Wolf lost the point because she had. I'm trying to remember how it happened because it wound up that Audrey had did something and then she actually won 2 of the rounds, but. I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly. Are you remembering that correctly? What happened with the draw?
I don't remember. Hell, Mark, sometimes I don't remember what I eat for breakfast in the morning. I've been that way since I'm a kid, so we can't say I have brain trauma or something.
But yeah, I remember. I think it was Mara that ended up having the having it, because I remember she was training under Metzger's, and I was thinking this isn't old school MMA where you can do anything. But yeah, Holly's coming off a draw in her debut. Again, we're trying to build up this 145 division and really get some young talent going. And I will say this on another side note is the fact that I've been watching the stats this past year. It's been interesting because the amateur ranks, we've been seeing a lot of 155-pound fights. Now, why is that important?
Thank God.
Why is that important? Because a lot of the amateurs don't cut weight that professionals do. So a lot of these girls were probably going down to 145, 135, where really we need a lot more talent now. So for those people that are saying that there isn't any talent in 145 and it's not that's not a worthwhile division, all I say is give it time. The problem is that there's a huge gap between where Cyborg is, where Amanda is, where a bunch of these gals are, versus the upper tier gals are, versus the ones that are just getting into the sport and just starting to build their way up. And that gap will close off. And we saw that at 135. We saw it at 125. We saw it at 115, where those gaps kind of started going away once. In a couple years, once those amateurs started getting professional experience. So don't throw 145 under the bus just yet. With the PFL, I won't be surprised if we see a couple of 155ers go through that process. And telling by the way that I think that the PFL is going to book it, there's going to be a lot of amateurs turning pro. There's a couple of pros that some people that maybe have one fight. There's a couple fights I've seen in the past couple months that were at 155, so I think they're trying to ink their way into the tournament. So just watch out for those divisions, and don't worry about it yet. Give it a year or two, and we could probably see a very solid division once again. So don't worry about it. Yeah. So she's coming off. Let's see here. Courtney's coming off a loss to Shayna Baszler.
Yeah. That was an interesting one. That little thing was like a Tasmanian devil. Courtney's an interesting one. I fought her to a Fight of the Night performance. I hope that she came out on top. I've never encountered somebody so long and lanky in my life, and thankfully, because of that, that showed me how to deal with long and lanky motherfuckers. I did not know when I saw her she was originally a flat. She came went down in weight. I looked like Skeletor. She looked like Skeletor. It was awesome. But yeah, Courtney has heavy hands. I think how she left me feeling was probably not how my face looked was not the best. I know her leg didn't look the best after I was done with it. I was walking with a chicken egg in my shin and a swollen foot on the other where I tried to kick her to death. But she has good range. She knows how to utilize her big reach. I think her downfall is when someone knows how to swarm, because I was able to come in at first, and then when she started to shut that down, I'm like, God damn it. Because, again, I didn't know how to deal with long, lanky motherfuckers. Now we have all the long, lanky motherfuckers at the gym I can shake a stick at. So as long as Courtney can command the range of distance, this can be her fight. The moment she lets, as we saw with Yaya and Cohen, as long as she lets somebody come in and just do damage, she's not in a good spot. That hole was exposed, I think, when I fought her. It was definitely exposed when Yaya and Cohen came in and just wrecked her stuff. Because goddamn.
Yeah. I was there for your fight with Courtney. I was actually there ringside watching that fight, and I was remembering those leg kicks. And yeah, I was telling you that you were just eating up. She was just eating up those leg kicks. So
she didn't like kicking me after I checked 5 of her leg kicks in a row.
Yeah.
Like, bring that shit. I did Muay Thai fights first before this shit.
Yeah. So
bring that shit right here.
Yeah. So we'll see what kind of happens in that fight. I mean, like I said, Courtney right now is 1-1, and Holly is 1-0, and with one draw. So again, it's a developing division. We're trying to get some of these girls developed up there. I don't know if any of them is going to move down to 135, which, again, we need more 135ers right now. But we'll see what kind of how it goes. Yep. Hi. Yep. Okay. Opening up the card. I'm kind of interested in seeing Caitlin Salmons. I've seen her work in the amateur ranks. You know, she's an upcoming prospect. It's great to be able to see that she signed with Invicta. She's facing Christina Ricker.